Welcome to Headlines and History, live news reactions and your views. We're about to go live soon, so grab your spot and get ready for a sharp, balanced take on today's biggest news stories with a dash of historical insight. Stay tuned. Each week, we tackle the headlines that matter: politics, economics, global events with a balanced lens. We'll react live, tie today's stories to historical moments, and spotlight your views in the chat. From trade talks echoing the 1990s to crises recalling 2008, we're here to unpack it all. Your voice drives the show. Share your thoughts or historical parallels in the live chat, and we'll dive into the best ones. It's news, context, and community all in 1 hour. We're moments away from launching Headlines and History. Stick around for live reactions, historical nuggets, and your chance to chime in. Hit the notification bell, prep your comments, and let's make sense of the news together. See you soon.
Welcome back. In this episode, we dig into the not so surprising release of emails Democrats say link Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein's. Now, the emails that they say suggest Trump spent hours with an Epstein victim and knew about the girls. The White House calls it a hoax. Now, what's really going on? So join me for this real-time analysis. Live chat and let me know your thoughts, okay? And let me know what you think about what's going on, whether this is political theater or real exposure. We're going to be diving into the stories, the videos, the releases that have been going out since this broke yesterday. Please smash the like button and consider sending a super chat. Support us, join the membership, figure out, share the video, like the video, but the most important thing is engage. Let's know your thoughts concerning this situation. Now, after we're done with that story, we're also going to be looking at John Fetterman's interview with Katie Couric. She repeatedly tried to make him attack Charlie Kirk and a few other things that came up during her interview, but we're going to be looking at some of the flashpoints of that interview. And then Trump also signs the funding bill, which basically ends the shutdown. There's an update on the Nigeria genocide. We covered that last week. And there's an update. Trump threatens the Nigerian government and what happens next. We're going to cover it. Well, spoiler, the terrorists have intensified their attacks. We have several videos to show you, and then you can let me know what you think about that story. So let's jump into the meat of the matter. The House Democrats release Epstein emails sparking bipartisan drive for full disclosure. So in this report, now this is a summary from Grok. Okay, it's gone through all of the posts and all the news on X, and this is basically a summary. House Democrats on the Oversight Committee released 2011 emails from Jeffrey Epstein's estate, alleging President Donald Trump spent hours at Epstein's home with a redacted victim who testified under oath that Trump committed no misconduct. So in essence, the Democrats are screaming blue murder. Meanwhile, the victim whose name was redacted, the victim who they claim is the source of the email, said already that Trump committed no misconduct. Republicans criticized Democrats for previously withholding the files, while a bipartisan discharge petition secured 218 signatures to force a House vote on releasing all Epstein documents held by the Justice Department next week. The White House held strategy sessions amid the controversy. highlighting ongoing debates over transparency in Epstein's network. I don't understand what that means. Epstein's network. Does it mean that there is an Epstein network operating within the White House? Let me know what you think that means in the chat. So right now we are dealing with an appearance of this essentially being a hoax. Now, why does it look that way? It does because we have a shutdown, a government shutdown that ran for over 40 days. And just as the shutdown is ending, the Democrats decide to leak redacted emails that the Democrats themselves redacted, but the unredacted versions show that Virginia Giuffre was the so-called victim, and she had already given sworn testimony that Trump had no part in the abuse that was going on. We're going to listen to Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett does an interview on CNN, and here's what she has to say about this.
This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans were saying that victim is Virginia Giuffre. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been a very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who...
She's claiming that the Republicans redacted the document, but clearly this was the Democrats who redacted the document and released it. So she's now trying to smear the Republicans to say that they're the ones who redacted the document.
Is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No. I understand, okay, but I'm just saying, like, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book.
You don't know why they redacted it. And then when you're reminded that it was your side that redacted it, you're like, okay, obviously we're protecting the victims. When President Trump accuses her of being a low IQ person, this is why he says so, because she can't get her story straight. She says things to inflame conversations, all right, to stir up emotions. And then when she gets called out for it, she backtracks very quickly and then essentially adjusts her story.
She told her truth.
Her truth. So what happened to believe all victims? What happens to believe all victims? She says that she didn't see President Trump do anything wrong. And once Democrats or leftists or people who essentially are just looking for an excuse to attack someone hear something that they don't like, they essentially pivot to start saying that, well, this was your truth. It's crazy. Right, so while Jasmine Crockett is out there doing her thing, we have the press pool in the White House asking about the Epstein email.
Did the president ever spend hours at Jeffrey Epstein's house with a victim?
These emails prove absolutely nothing other than the fact that President Trump did nothing wrong. And what President Trump has always said is that he was from Palm Beach, and so was Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. And this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
I think now tell me if this looks like what's going on. They just got off a shutdown that was disastrous for the Democrat Party. Chuck Schumer's approval rating, the polls show him to be at the lowest for any Democrat since 1985. They are suffering massive defeats. And then they turn around and say, well, we're ending the lockdown. We didn't get anything. We need to give our base something to chew on. And then they start out with releasing a redacted email trying to claim that President Trump visited Epstein's house and spent hours in Epstein's house. Okay, so I don't know why politicians are allowed to get away with things like this. Because when I hear these stories, this falls into the category of libel. If you redact a document and frame it in a way, just like the BBC did with President Trump's speech, they frame it in a way that makes it look like President Trump, is a monster. And then when you look at the full speech, it's a lie. When you look at the email that the Democrats are foaming or frothing at the mouth with, unredacted, the subject or the person who wrote the email had already clearly stated that President Trump did nothing wrong. What on earth is going on with the Democrat Party? So Scott Jennings is on CNN, and again, it's like, well, one thing that you will notice about the news cycle is that the news cycle is essentially an outrage factory. They're looking for something to talk about, something horrible, something bad to talk about. I believe that many news houses are happy whenever there's a war, because ad revenue goes up. They're always on air covering the carnage. There's always something to show people. People's eyes and anxiety are on them. So, it's good business for them. And so, as long as there's something bad going on in politics and in the world, they are doing great. So CNN is farming this outrageous claim, and Scott Jennings is setting them right in this video.
Then why is the White House fighting it so much? That's my question here, because I do agree with you. It might die in the Senate. So then why is the White House fighting it like they are?
Because I think they believe that the time spent on this and that the Republicans who bought into the Democratic tactics on this are ultimately hurting the president's agenda and hurting the overall Republican effort to change this country for the better. The president firmly believes this is nothing but a distraction tactic ginned up by Democrats who didn't care about this one bit until a couple of months ago. They didn't care about it when Joe Biden was the president. Now they care about it to try to tie up this presidency. He's lived through these things before. He's lived through these kinds of, wild goose chases before. It's all designed to tie him up.
They called anyone who mentioned the Epstein files and Epstein's connection to Bill Clinton and other top Democrat donors. They called them conspiracy theorists. And this is just as recent as last year during the presidential elections. People were talking about the Epstein files. Deputy Director Dan Bongino at the time was simply minding his business and running his podcast. And he mentioned the Epstein files. It was a big conversation back then. And Democrats and leftists unanimously called it a nothing burger. There was nothing going on. They said that right-leaning voices were spreading conspiracy theories. Then all of a sudden, it is so important to the Democrats to release the files. All through the Biden administration, they ran the House, the Senate, they had the presidency. And while everyone was talking about the Epstein files and how it had to be released, they called everyone a conspiracy theorist. How come it is suddenly very popular to want to release the files? You could have done it for 4 years. In fact, you could have done it during the last presidential election. If you wanted to bury President Trump, you could have released the files and let everyone see that he was a PDF. Show all of the records. You had access to all of that. You ran the FBI. You had no problem using the FBI to go after anyone who was remotely close to the Capitol building and happened to be a conservative. You had no problem seeking the FBI on them, breaking down doors of parents who went to complain about boys in girls' bathrooms in schools. You didn't have any problem with allocating resources. You didn't have any problem with sending the FBI to raid Mar-a-Lago over documents which President Trump, as it appears, the courts have vindicated him, had every right to, possess those documents. No, you didn't have any issues with all that. When you were told about the Epstein files, it was a conspiracy theory. So we're looking at something that I don't think merits much conversations, but you know what? If we don't talk about it, they'll say you're protecting President Trump, you're running cover for President Trump, you're protecting a PDF, you're hiding the facts. We're playing everything, and two of the videos that we've played already so far are from CNN. So let's keep going.
He doesn't want his own party members to fall for it, but I think a few probably will.
I think some people might.
No, and to Scott Jennings' point, this is a distraction. Now, a distraction in the sense that it is important, but it is not the main thing that President Trump has the power to unilaterally simply say, look, okay, release it. Democrats continue to accuse President Trump of wanting to be a king or a tyrant, and yet they ask him to be a tyrant when it comes to things like the Epstein files. They say release the Epstein files. There are processes to go through in releasing some of the documents because they are essentially protected by some legal machinery, and some of them are grand jury testimonies that are protected and you're not allowed to release them unless a judge rules that they can be released. And there are lots of files. There are some files that are downloaded, child porn and so on. That's what we've been told. Okay. And if that is the case, it's not as simple as simply flooding the internet with all the files that the FBI does have. The second thing is that assuming that everyone who's listed on the files is someone who participated in the abuse that was going on his island, on Epstein's island, is a bit of a stretch. MSNBC has a video, maybe we'll look at it, during a different stream. They have a video where they're interviewing a congressman, and he's demanding the release of the files. And in the background, they are playing an old video of Donald Trump when, of course, he was simply Donald Trump, the real estate mogul, hosting an event, I think, at Mar-a-Lago. And Epstein was there in frame, and he's simply talking to Epstein and being a host. In my opinion, he's simply being a host. Now, if I was seen being polite to someone I didn't know was a criminal, and you took that video, and in a few years someone plays that video and says, hey, look at this guy, he's smiling and shaking hands with this horrible human being, therefore he is a horrible human being. Is that the right way to frame an issue or to interpret a situation? I'm a very polite person. I will smile at people. I will shake hands with people. Even if the people don't like me or I'm not very comfortable with them, I try to be polite. Should my politeness or my being a good host be interpreted as me endorsing the private practices of whoever it is I am being polite to? These are questions that we need to ask. In politics, every single disadvantage the opponent has is used and is blown up beyond proportion. And then when it is discovered that it was all a hoax, everybody pretends that it was never said, but the damage has been done. I started making a statement earlier asking, why is it that people in politics and in public office get away with these smears? There are things that are said about people that are so damaging that they don't ever get away from the smell of those accusations. And President Trump has had smears made on him. And to be honest, he hasn't been able to get away from those accusations, like the very fine people hoax. And then, of course, the one we discussed yesterday, where the speech he made on January 6th was doctored to make it seem like he was egging on the protesters to attack Congress. So my thought on this matter is that we really need to calm down, take a breath, and take a look at what's going on. Let's not get hypnotized by the outrage. It's very easy to get swept along with all of the madness and all of the insanity that's going on out there. What we need to do is to do our own research, think for ourselves, ask questions. Sometimes I watch the news and it does affect me. It triggers me emotionally. If it doesn't trigger you, then you're a very special kind of person. It triggers me emotionally, but immediately I make a decision to not react emotionally. I decide that it is time for me to use my rational mind and ask questions. Now, we shouldn't rush to the defense, blindly rush to the defense of anyone. It could, whether their last name is Trump or their last name is Clinton. We shouldn't madly rush to their defense or even rush to offense. We need to sit back, take a breath, and look at the facts. And when we look at the facts, 90% of the time, possibly 95% of the time, it's all politics. It's all framing. It's all narrative. And I find that personally disgusting. I find it that as someone who follows the teachings of Jesus, I have a visceral reaction to lies that are designed to destroy anyone's reputation. If you're lying personally, if there's a personal lie you tell and the lie is only meant to protect you because you're afraid of getting called out for bad behavior, like many people have accused President Trump of lying, and many times he's lying about things that are innocuous, like he's lying about the size or the importance of an event. And sometimes he lies about his own personal experiences. That's one thing. But when you aim that lie at someone else and you create a lie about someone else designed to destroy that person, every honest and right-thinking person should really have a visceral reaction to that. This attack on President Trump isn't going to end. Just like the attack on him from the very fine people hoax, it hasn't ended in spite of all of the evidence out there debunking it. It's still out there and it's going to stay out there because many of these media houses find it convenient. It is convenient for their narrative about President Trump being evil, an authoritarian, a Nazi, a fascist, and all of that. They still say those words. They still insinuate those words, trying to make him look bad. And in my opinion, that's really a very sad thing. All right, so we're going to move on from this story because I think we've dealt a very long and labored conversation around it. John Fetterman was interviewed recently by Katie Couric. Now, Katie Couric, I guess she's one of the veterans, if I could use that term for her, in mainstream media. And of course, I think she has her own private show, and here she is trying to sell John Fetterman on saying things that honestly he shouldn't be saying. So let us listen. She does try to get him to attack Charlie Kirk, and then tries to get him to attack President Trump and so on. So let's listen to him, and then I'll give you my reaction.
You've said that Donald Trump, in your view, is not an autocrat because his presidency is, quote, the product of a democratic election. But history has shown that even leaders who come to power through elections can still govern in anti-democratic ways. So I have to ask, when you consider some of Donald Trump's behaviors and policies, like deploying federal forces to U.S. cities, undermining the Department of Justice's independence, attempting to overturn the 2020 election, does that not trouble you deeply?
Well, of course. I was really the tip of the spear in the 2020 election in Pennsylvania, where he claimed that it wasn't like a fair, safe election. Absolutely. I pushed back violently on that. And I don't support many of these things that are happening right now. I don't and never vote for those things. But now for me, it's like, here we are. But I think at this point right now, we are not in an autocracy. We're in a democracy, and that's why they were able to shut our government down. And that doesn't mean that we appreciate what's happening. And that expression, it's not normal. It's like, yes, it isn't normal, but that doesn't mean this is an autocracy right now.
All right. So he starts off by saying, look, this is not an autocracy. I didn't agree with President Trump's pushback on the 2020 elections. But does denying the veracity of the results of an election make you an autocrat? That would mean that Hillary Clinton is an autocrat. That would mean that the long fought rejection of the elections, I think it was in 2003, the elections that returned it wasn't 2003. I think it was it 2001? I can't remember now. The election that returned George Bush Jr. as the president, where they contested that Florida had issues and they took it to court. Does that make Al Gore an authoritarian? There are questions that you need to ask. If you're going to accuse one person of being something simply because they contested the results of an election, then you can apply the same for someone else in your camp that did the same thing. Hillary Clinton contested the results of the 2016 election, consistently called President Trump an illegitimate president. You guys went along with her and celebrated her because it's all narrative, it's all spin. Okay, so we just need to tell ourselves the truth. Now, President Trump isn't politically correct, and President Trump is a fighter. You don't build a multi-billion-dollar business if you're not a fighter. You don't ever build a multi-billion-dollar business by being polite. I've met business owners who run big businesses. They are not polite, and that's what a lot of people, fail at, because they look at big businesses, they see the billboards, the signage, the branding, and they think that the person running the business is as fluffy and as polished as that. They are really rough-cut people. They are very abrasive because they need to get the job done. That is the way leaders act. So and that's why they always say, don't meet your heroes, because your heroes aren't the same as the well manicured and curated representation that the brand that they've created represents. Don't meet your heroes, because they are all abrasive, every single one of them, because they want to win and they will do whatever it takes to win.
And what it does mean that we have a lot of hills that we can choose to die on. But I think for me, I've just been choosing some of the most difficult ones. And that's where I've been, and not supporting, many of these things that are happening.
Do you think that Donald Trump is not conducting himself or not pushing policies, though, that you would consider to be anti-democratic?
What I'm saying is a Democrat with a 90% record voting Democrat. That's a fact. That's not my opinion. That's my numbers.
No, I'm talking about Donald Trump's, some of the things that he's doing. If you don't believe we're living in an autocracy, would you concede that some of the things that he is doing are clearly anti-democratic and also are potentially even unconstitutional?
Is she a journalist? Now, I want you to let me know in the chat. Do you consider people like Katie Couric journalists? I don't think that they're journalists. I think that they're just activists. We have activists in TDSBC, CNN, ABC. Every single one of them is an activist, because their job is to make the side that they support look good, while making the side that they aren't very excited about look bad. You can see it from the interviews that they conduct. An interview with J.D. Vance, between J.D. Vance and George Stephanopoulos, we saw how that turned out. He essentially attacked J.D. Vance throughout the interview, and when J.D. Vance was trying to respond to his final question and trying to clarify things, he took him off the air in a very unceremonial and disrespectful way. So I think we just have to make peace with the fact that the popular journalists of the 80s and 90s were always activists. They were only held at bay possibly by the Smith-Mott, before the Smith-Mott Act. I hope I'm pronouncing it well. I'm sure I'm butchering it. It was this thing that was set up by Obama that essentially protected news outlets from being sued for misrepresenting the truth. They were all liable until that point, and then they all were let off the leash. They decided to spout their ideologies in their news, run cover for the side that they favor and attack the side that they don't favor. And they expect all of us to go along with it. So it's very important that we kind of make the distinction. Now, is it possible for anyone to truly not support one side over the other? It isn't. You will always favor one person's policy over the other. But professionally, you need to, your job as a journalist. Now, I am not a journalist. I am a conservative commentator. I do not pretend to say like I am trying to be a middle of the road person, not choose one side over the other. If I was representing a journalistic outlook, my job would be to simply lay out the facts, find the facts, lay them out, and then let the reader or let the viewer make their own decision. For me, it's more like, this is what I've seen. Here's how I see it from my conservative lens. You make up your mind and choose what you want. That's my position. My job is not to make you think anything. My job is just to say, hey, this is what I think. What do you think? Right? And now that I'm asking that question, what do you think about her being a journalist? And what do you think about the accusations she's levying against President Trump? she says that President Trump deployed troops on U.S. soil. Well, LBJ deployed troops on U.S. soil when he was trying to enforce integration or desegregation in California. He released the National Guard, and many students were escorted into the now desegregated schools by National Guardsmen, with plenty of people protesting and, I'm sure, spewing their displeasure and hatred at the little children who were being escorted into the now desegregated schools. So she can't, try to pull that, bait and switch on us. A Democrat president already did that. And it's been done before when the state government refuses to abide by federal law. And federal law is what these National Guardsmen are there to preserve. ICE is in these blue cities where the blue cities have vowed to not support ICE, and they're simply doing what they're meant to be doing to protect the ICE agents, since the local police departments won't protect the ICE agents as they do their job in enforcing federal immigration law. It's very easy for people with these platforms, and of course with the audience. I'm sure that some of you who are listening to me right now favor conservative values. It's easy for us to say, yes, that's the right thing to do, and we can support a conservative decision and be very happy about it. But we shouldn't get to the point like we see many on the left get to, where they are blind to when these conservative values get hijacked by extremists. You can be extreme on the left, you can also be extreme on the right. We should speak up and say, look, this shouldn't be happening. This should be done differently. Let's not let the people who claim that they represent us sell us on lies. And I hope that someday people who vote left will do the same thing. If someone on the right tells a lie, if I see someone on the right tell a lie and I find out it's a lie, I have the responsibility to call them out and not pretend like it never happened. And that's what a lot of people on the left keep doing. We see it here. And I would like to say that I appreciate what John Fetterman stands for right now. I've said before that I wasn't a fan of him, especially when he had that health situation and he had to run. The partisan approach I took at the time was, I don't want him to win. I want a Republican to win I want a Republican to win his seats from Pennsylvania, but he won, and I was like, why is he running? He's not well and everything. But today, I'm glad he ran. Okay, I'm glad he ran because he's presenting a very sane approach to being a Democrat. And I wish more Democrats could approach politics like he does. Now, let me know in the comments section if you feel like I do sometimes that that the whole partisan noise is tiring and frustrating. Why don't we just focus on coming to terms with things that help everyone, that helps the species? Why can't we come to terms with rejecting people who appear to have an agenda? They appear to have an agenda. Why would anyone want boys in girls' bathrooms? I have kids. These are siblings, 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl keeps her own bedroom. The boys share a bedroom. Both bedrooms are the same size. Okay, the oldest could, I mean, if it was so okay, as parents, we could say, well, the oldest is big, he needs his own bedroom, and then the 2 younger kids, the girl and the boy, can share a bedroom. It's not done. So even if within a family we have separations of the sexes, why would I be okay with a random boy from a different family that with values that I may not agree with, walking into my daughter's washroom in school while she's in a most vulnerable state using the washroom. Why should I be okay with that? But do you know what? To a lot of people, with this segment clipped out, I have become the devil because I am asking a very rational question. Right now, why is the left so bent on? I don't know why I'm going on this down this corridor, but the reason why I'm pointing that out is about policy. If the left or the Democrats decide that they want to pursue policies that don't make common sense, that's where we have real issues. And because many of them can't justify the policies that they are pushing because they don't make any sense, they begin to attack you. They begin to say how much of a racist you are, how much of a bigot you are, and so on. So I want to see more Democrats like John Fetterman, but I don't think we will, because the Democrat Party has essentially been overrun by activists. We don't have politicians anymore. We have activists, and most of them subscribe to policies that are Marxist and communist in nature. We see it from the win from last week, Zoran Mamdani's epic win in New York. All right, so sorry about that long rant. Let's listen to John's response to her question.
I guess so. For me, it's like, we have a difference here. It's like, if you believe we live in an autocracy, and I don't. And I think we can both agree that we don't agree with the vast majority of those things that's happened here right now. And I wouldn't do those things. I wouldn't have made those same kind of decisions for that. And that's fine where we are right now, a committed Democrat, and we happen to have a different view of these things. It's like, I don't call people fascists or Nazis or compare people to Hitler. And I think that's part of why we lost our election last year. If you call the person that you might vote for, that implies that you must be a fascist or you're trying to destroy, our nation. And I know and I love some of those people, and they're not doing any of those things. So that's really the thing. So, and the vast majority of Americans chose that, an option that I did not choose, and actually campaigned effectively the year for Harris and Biden before he dropped out. So that's exactly where we are.
Yeah. So he's very clear. Look, it's not about okay. It's not about calling people names. It's really essentially about, do we have a policy disagreement? Fine. And it stays a policy disagreement. Have you, who or which side, let me put it this way, which side is the side that continues to demonize their opposition? Which of the two sides, Democrat and Republican, are the side which calls the other side racists or Nazis or fascists? Which side? You don't see that coming from the Republicans or the right. It comes from the left, and it is a tactic of dehumanizing your opponent. Now, speaking of dehumanizing your opponent, Katie Couric went ahead to attempt to get John to essentially attack Charlie Kirk.
Think that flags should have been flown at half staff? Do you think his body should have been flown on Air Force Two? Do you think he should have posthumously be given the Presidential Medal of Freedom? I think some people felt that was perhaps over the top in terms of mourning someone like Charlie Kirk. How did you feel about that?
I'd say that was his choice and his prerogative. and that's where and that was really entirely up to him.
Did you have any issues now in hindsight over some of the things that Charlie Kirk said and some?
What is Katie's problem with Charlie Kirk? What is the problem that the left as a representative group, because these are the voices that represent the left? What is the problem with Charlie Kirk? Why do they hate him so much? We're discovering that a few people on the left aren't like this, but most of the people with large platforms are this way. He engaged in open, free debate and exchange of ideas. And the problem was, most of the time, he would defeat the people who came out to debate him because he knew what he was talking about. They didn't. His ideas were common sense. Theirs were not. They couldn't defend their ideas. The ability for them to articulate their ideas was, it always fell flat before Charlie Kirk. They hated him because they couldn't defeat him in the marketplace of ideas. And then they were totally fine with him being murdered. They celebrated after he got murdered. Mainstream media continued to smear him long before he was buried. And then he gets honored by the sitting president, and they are all up in arms saying, why should he be honored? And when you ask them, why do you have a problem with that? They proceed to say he was divisive, he was a racist, he was a misogynist, he was this and that. And then people go back and watch his videos and find out that it wasn't true. He was very truthful. He based his arguments in common sense, but I think the part that really grieved many of them was that he was unapologetically a Christian, and he rooted most of his arguments in biblical values. How is that being divisive? How is that being divisive? They accuse President Trump of being divisive. Meanwhile, it is the mainstream media who spent the last decade vilifying him and vilifying anyone who supports him. They are the ones doing the division, and yet they are accusing President Trump of being the one being the great divider. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair. There are people that want to be very politically correct about this entire thing because they don't want to be attacked. Look, after Charlie Kirk died, not died, saying he died sounds like he went to bed and didn't wake up. After he was murdered, my wife comes home from work that day and she's terrified because she's like, if they could kill someone like Charlie Kirk, who was moderate, who was kind and polite while he discussed with people who didn't agree with him, with Christian values, then what would they do to people like us? You don't see people on the left getting attacked. You don't see assassination attempts. Jesse Smollett, that case is still out there. He set it up. He paid people to make it look like they were attacking him and wanting to lynch him. Both of the people who did that were Nigerians, and they've told their stories. That was set up. Everything you see that is couched as violence against the left is either made up, exaggerated, or set up. The real violence is happening against conservatives. We saw what happened in UC Berkeley just a couple of days back. The real violence is against conservatives. Why is it that this group of people who want to be left alone, who aren't violent against anyone who doesn't disagree with them? I mean, I have a video here. Just hang on. I have this video. I mean, while we're on topic, we're going to come back to John Fetterman. I have this video, and I want you to see the difference between how a Trump supporter or someone who appears to be a Trump supporter is treated by Democrats, and how the same person appearing to be a Kamala Harris supporter is treated by Republicans during a Trump rally. It is night and day. You can't see this and think that the Democrats, with the way they act, the leftists, with the way they act, are on the right side. If you do think that they're on the right side, then honestly, I'm sorry. I can't help you. I honestly cannot help you. Because you pretend that one side is the side that is kind and understanding and calm, and then the other side are just filled with rabid, violent people. And then when someone goes out to test it, this is what they find out.
This man tested the difference between Democrat and Republican rallies, and the results speak for themselves.
I'm right into the Biden protest with the Trump shirt. Get your ass across the street. Biden says children, not Trump. No, stop. Don't snitch. Stop, I'm blending in. No.
Like, look at the rage on her face. Look at the rage on her face. It's a spiritual problem, guys. It's a spiritual problem. When someone simply voting for another candidate causes you to act like this, you have a spiritual problem.
No. Go over there with your people. You guys are my people. You know what? You can get hurt doing that stuff like that. Oh, yeah? You see how much hate it is over here? It's a public sidewalk. I feel like I'm going to get jumped out.
So even after he revealed that, okay, he's actually a Harris supporter, they still attacked him. And this man pours water on his head.
Yeah. So when you poured water on me, did it make you feel happy? Yeah. Why is everyone so angry?
Let's see this one.
I'm just walking the sidewalk. I have to change shirts. Can I hide behind you?
All right. So he's about to go into a Trump rally. Okay? So he's about to change into his Kamala Harris shirt.
Okay. Okay. Hey, come on. Just so much more respect over here.
None of these people know that he's pretending. These are the violent conservatives. These are the people who hate and they divide. They are hateful.
Favorite president, Biden 2024. I want to sniff children.
It's very clear which group does what. It's very clear. I should continue this video, but I mean, like, this is part of what I see out there based on my feed, that keeps me doing this. It's like, how is it that people think this way? Is it right? Is it fair? Should we be pretending like everything is okay? Should we pretend that it's okay for people to treat someone a certain way simply because they don't vote the same way you do? Is it okay? Is it fair the way they treated President Trump after he left office and they attacked him, tried to destroy his businesses? He was targeted. None of the mainstream media, Katie Couric, was all for it. She was totally for it. Hollywood was totally for it. They wanted him destroyed. And why did they want him destroyed? They wanted him destroyed because they wanted you to learn that you don't go against them. They wanted to terrify you and demoralize you to not even think of going against them. That when they start putting things in place, you keep silent. I ask myself the question many times: do I really want to keep doing this? Is this a good thing for me to continue doing? I ask myself the question regularly, and many times I'm like, the one thing that lets me keep going is knowing that you're out there, you're watching, you're responding, you're chatting. And this is another segue into my call to action. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the way the content is presented, if you like the way I don't want to rage bait. I don't want to get people into an emotional furor while I'm doing my content. It's the fastest way to grow channels. Let me tell you, it's the fastest way to grow channels. I have to make a bunch of enemies and I have to make a bunch of allies. And the fastest way to do it is to enrage a certain group of people. And of course, on the other side, to drive people's reaction to the extreme on the right side so that they're like, okay, this is our guy. He's uncompromising and so on. That's the fastest way to grow your channel. But I want to kind of keep it as moderate as possible, because it's really about looking at these things, discussing ideas, discussing with you and sharing ideas with you as well. You may not like 100% of what I have to say, because you know what? I do my best to frame my ideas based on what the Bible teaches. For some people, it is too moderate. For a group of others, it is too extreme. But it is based on what the Bible says. And I may not get it right 100% of the time, but I will try. Okay, I will try. So in the end, what we try to do is to be honest and to tell the truth. All right, so let's listen to Katie as she continues to try to rope John Fetterman into attacking Charlie Kirk.
Kirk said, and some of the rhetoric he used during his life.
What rhetoric?
I didn't agree with much of it. I didn't closely follow his specific kinds of views.
John is very honest. He said the first part, but the second part is actually what throws light on why he had the first opinion in the first place. He says, I didn't entirely agree with his views. Then he says, I didn't follow his career. I didn't watch his videos for hours and hours. I didn't. These people rely on what their assistants and what their aides tell them. They are busy people. They are busy, at least they're supposed to be busy reading thousands of pages of policies that they're trying to push through. They're horse trading in Congress and at the same time trying to keep their senatorial seats. They are busy people. So they might not have the time to sit down and watch thousands of hours or hundreds of hours of Charlie Kirk's debates. And so they depend on what they've been told. And I think the same holds true for the likes of Jasmine Crockett and company. They depend on the feedback or the information that they get from their assistants or their interns. And if their interns have been radicalized in college and all they know is this guy was a racist and these are all the horrible things he said, and they feed it to their congressmen, then the congressmen simply parrot what these activists are telling them. I'm just being charitable. Okay, I'm trying my best to be charitable so that it's not like everyone in Congress is evil. But John Fetterman is smart. He says, look, I don't agree with the things I've heard he said, but I haven't exactly followed his career.
Views, but I did.
I'm sure you learned about them after his death, though.
No, I haven't done a deep dive on it. You know, we've all seen that terrible video. Perhaps if you've seen the actual video, I have. And it's like appalling. And that's part of the political violence. And from what I'm saying, it's like that's unacceptable. And engaging in a debate and views I strongly disagree on, that's part of the American democracy. And for me, it's that would never justify what's happened, and I just chose not to take the opportunity to argue his views after after children lost his father in the most violent public way. I mean, so that's, I would say the equivalent on the left might be, say, Mr. Piker. I strongly disagree with his views, but I'm appalled if something like that happened to him. Oh my God. I mean, that's, like we have to disagree in better ways where, you're going to solve it by shooting people. And that's why the kinds of rhetoric, we have to turn the temperature down. Extreme rhetoric makes it easier for extreme reactions or to justify them.
I think some people might say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric was extreme. I think that's the conversation that happened. People condemned political violence.
Now, when you ask Katie Couric, what about his rhetoric was extreme? Can you point out 3 things he said that you feel were extreme? What she would do is pull out those heavily edited clips of him saying something that was taken out of context without the background of the debate conversation as a whole. And like we've seen it done to President Trump. I'll talk about my wife again. My wife doesn't entirely understand why I do this. I talk about things about politics, US politics, and she doesn't follow US politics. She's a normie. She's not even a normie. She's an outsider. She doesn't know what's going on. And for years, I've been telling her, look, this was going on with President Trump. I don't agree with it. And she's totally out of it. She's not interested. She just wants to be home, wife, kids. We have bills to pay. That kind of consciousness. That's basically where she was until Charlie Kirk was murdered. And then she's led to go in to begin to study or to listen to Charlie's videos. And then she comes back to me and says to me, I just spent the day. I couldn't get away from watching Charlie Kirk's videos. In the end, I understand what happened with Donald Trump. Because she heard people attacking Charlie Kirk, calling him all sorts of names. And then finally, when she went to watch the videos, she found out that they were lying. So, in the end, we have to all think for ourselves. Because when you depend on people like Katie Couric and even John Fetterman, because John, like he said, he doesn't follow everything. He doesn't chase down everything. And I understand his position. I do. But Katie is desperately trying to get him to say something about Charlie Kirk that should discredit him and make him look like, okay, this person should not be taken seriously. He was divisive. All the words that they use for Charlie Kirk.
But they also felt a great deal of discomfort with his language, suggesting that these kinds of words lead to violence. I don't know. I'm just kind of sharing my observations as I saw the conversations unfold.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we agree that we probably didn't agree with much of what he said. And I think I'm sure we both agree that you shouldn't shoot people, and you shouldn't execute them in public. And I think that's 2 things must be true. That free speech, I'm an absolute free speech guy, and you have the right to say these things, and you definitely also have the right not to get shot by sharing your views.
How complicated is that, guys? Okay, how complicated is that? But you know what? For a lot of people, it is very complicated. They can't understand why. You mean I can't physically attack someone that I disagree with? Why? That's unfair. You mean I can't attack someone that I can't defeat in a debate? Why? That's unfair. You're infringing on my free speech rights. They call violence free speech, just like the UC Berkeley Antifa rioters. Okay, because when you begin to punch and kick people and steal their stuff, it has devolved into carnage. That was a riot. Okay? Now, that's an oversimplification, I will admit. But when you have several people in your crowd engaging in criminal activity and the rest of the crowd don't distance themselves from that person, but they gather around and begin to taunt the person who was bloodied by the attack of one of your group, you endorse that behavior. Therefore, all of you are complicit. It is a riot. That's my opinion, guys. Okay. So let me know what you think of his response in the chat. Okay. We've spent some time listening to him avoid being goaded by Katie Couric into attacking President Trump and calling him a fascist. We've also seen him deal with her attempts to getting him to attack Charlie Kirk. I think he's doing a good job. There are rumors that he is planning to move over to the Republican Party. All right. What do you think of those rumors? Do you think that those rumors are valid? Okay, so let me know in the chat, because the way he talks is like, I don't think John Fetterman's political career as a Democrat is long for this world, because the Democrat Party right now has amassed for itself a voting base that is pushing for more extreme positions by the Democrat Party. We saw the interview that he had with The View yesterday, and how The View essentially was saying that they were, or at least they were trying to frame it to say that the Democrat voters were upset with the Democrats in Congress for conceding and not holding out, okay, till the bitter end to ensure that the shutdowns got them all the things that they were fighting for. So if what they're saying is true, it means that the Democrat voters right now are now filled with extremist activists who will not stop until they burn everything down. Over 40 billion Americans, I think, or at least let's just use the statistics, over 40 million people who depend on the SNAP benefits were going to go hungry. But these people don't care. They don't care. If you starve, it's for the cause. Okay, suck it up. It's for the cause. And while you're starving, even though we insisted that the votes for reopening the government didn't happen, while you're starving, don't blame us. Don't blame the people who refuse to reopen the government. No, blame the people who are trying to reopen the government to feed you. No, blame them because we don't like them. That's what they were saying. And the disconnection from common sense that we continue to see out there is insane. President Trump has signed, while we're talking about that, President Trump recently signed to open up the government. Okay, sorry. Did I skip that? All right, so he recently signed to reopen the government, and we'll talk about that, I assume. Now, this is who the Democrats are pandering to now. This is the kind of voter they have. This guy is out there calling for someone to film an ICE agent getting shot in the head.
Whoever gets footage of that first ICE agent that actually gets one straight through the fucking skull, please post that. Or just DM me it. That would be wonderful. Thank you.
These are the people that are your voters now, Democrats. These are your voters. These are the people that AOC, Bernie Sanders, and company are pandering to. These are the voters. So, what can we do? And when I say we, because globally, and I mean it, globally, there are voters who think this way. What can we do about this? Essentially, we get out there and we outvote them. We outvote them, and I'm going to say something that is a bit crude. We outbreed them because most of them don't believe in having kids. We have more children, have more children, and then we out-preach them. If you don't own a podcast yet, but you're drawn to this space where people create videos on YouTube or you listen to podcasts, maybe it's time for you to create your own podcast. Maybe it's time for you to create your own podcast, because we can't cede ground to people who think like this. I have kids, and I will have grandkids, and they will have kids. I'm doing this because I'm thinking about them. I told my wife last night, I said to her, you and I are not going to be here by the time the vision of these people manifests. We're not going to be here. It takes a while. It's taken over 50 years for the socialist Marxists incursion into the educational system to take hold. It started in the 50s. Okay, so that's like 70 years, 75 years. Let's call it 70 years. It's been 70 years for that to take hold and to completely infect the educational system in the United States and all over the world, because it's happening all over the world. I had a college professor in Nigeria who would attack you if he knew that you were a Christian. He would make it a point of duty to embarrass you and to make you feel uncomfortable in his class. This is in Africa. So it's not just an American thing, but it is something that is global. So if you're listening, 3 things: outvote, have more kids, and outpreach them. Outpreach them. Don't let the leftist voices be the only voices out there on the internet. You have to speak up. You have to share your ideas. You have to put up more common sense arguments for our position. There are people who will never listen to me. They will never listen to me. They have their reasons, but they might listen to you because they resonate with maybe your voice or your face or something, or I don't know, there's something about you that draws them in. So don't become one of the silent majority. You have to speak up, guys. You do. If you need me to help you out, to give you some pointers, send me an email, crossroadsirl@gmail.com. Again, crossroadsirl@gmail.com. Okay, just send me an email. Say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Can you give me some pointers? And I'll be glad to. We need more voices out there. All right. I started this channel and I made up my mind. Look, even if my channel doesn't grow, this is important because I'm doing it for my kids. As a byproduct, you guys get to watch my content as a byproduct. And I've always been honest. It'd be great if my channel blows up and it becomes something that creates revenue for me so that I don't have to hold down a 9-to-5. I've always been honest about that. I've told my friends, I've told my family, look, this is what I'm doing. If it doesn't make money, I'm fine. So what I would like from you is for you to consider creating content for yourself. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, let me know your thoughts in the chat. Okay, don't just stay there like a fly on the wall. Say something in the chat. Practice engaging in the chat. You know, whenever we have these conversations in the chat, one of the things that you don't realize is that you're learning how to engage in the public arena, how to speak, how to let people know what you think about what's going on in the world. You're learning how to do that. And when you do that, you're positioning yourself to be essentially a content creator. All right. So don't be quiet. Now, I'm going to be wrapping up with the final story. The final story, it was the final story that I was preparing, and you know, if you noticed when I jumped onto the live stream, if you may have noticed, I didn't have a pep in my presentation. I actually was at some point I was crying. There was a video that I can't show. So let me lead up to it. This is about Nigeria. The U.S. threat to the Nigerian government, demanding that they end the genocide. And one of the videos that I watched, I don't think I'm going to play it. It had corpses, and people were there was a minister who was essentially, he was speaking in vernacular, and he was talking to the people. He was switching from vernacular. I don't understand Hausa, so he was switching from English to Hausa, and he was talking about the carnage and the deaths that had happened under the genocide, the genocidal attacks that had been happening. And one of the videos he played was of a woman who had been kidnapped by these people. She had been sexually assaulted for a long time before she was released, and then she essentially fled the country. She lives in Europe now, and she was brought in on a call, and she was telling her story, and I was essentially crying while I was listening to her story. So I was like, okay, I hope I can keep it together to do this stream, because it's okay for people who don't understand what's going on to sit and talk about how they support or don't support President Trump's message to the Nigerian government. There are some Nigerians that are saying that because of certain economic potentials that they see with the refinery, some people call the refinery that is about to be activated in Nigeria the largest refinery in the world. That's a great achievement, don't get me wrong. It's good for the Nigerian people. It is good for the Nigerian economy. I hope it will be good for the Nigerian economy as a whole. I honestly hope so. Historically, that hasn't always been the fact, because the Nigerian politicians have always treated Nigeria like it is their own private piggy bank. Sorry, Larry Glass, sorry, I want to put up your chat, sorry. Larry Glass, thank you so much for the chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. It's encouraging. So, okay, sorry. I was about to get emotional because I was remembering the video that I played. So I'm gonna play this. We may not watch the entire thing. This is a 13-minute video or 11-minute video, and we'll listen to several others. Then let me know your thoughts, because it is what's going on in Nigeria is only possible for several reasons. One, Nigeria doesn't have a constitution like you guys do in the United States. We don't have the right to keep and bear arms. And there are a few other things. Nigeria is not a Christian nation. It is not. It is a nation of different tribes. It is a tribal nation that was forced together by the British colonials. The country has been wealthier for it, but certain people in there profit by sowing division into the different tribes. Okay, let's play the video before I take you down my journey as a Nigerian from the Igbo tribe and some of the things that I learned during my journey. So, Larry, thank you for that message. But let's watch this. Let me know your thoughts, and then we will see. It's hard to discuss this. I discuss U.S. politics, and whenever the topic of America First comes on, I am 100% America First. I was concerned about the involvement in Ukraine. I was concerned about the involvement in the Middle East. I'm concerned when the United States inserts itself in foreign conflicts before taking care of what's going on within the borders of the United States, with the open borders. And I'm being very honest with you. So when it comes down to President Trump turning his sights on my country, that very well needs that intervention, and I have been such a fan of the U.S. needs to take care of itself first so I can take care of the world. I am totally conflicted, guys, and I'll be honest with you. So I'm just being very transparent, so that it's not like I'm like, okay, I have concerns about Israel and Ukraine and Afghanistan and every other place, and when it comes to Nigeria, yay! I'm not that detached from common sense. I know that there is some contradiction there. However, when you have the atrocities that have been going on in Nigeria, you need a strong hand to fix things. And sadly, I don't know that the United States getting involved is going to fix this. I don't know that it will. I think it might not, for several reasons. Let's watch the video. I've taken a long time to talk about this, and I hope I haven't bored you out of your minds, but let's just go with this.
In the days since President Donald Trump issued an aggressive warning to Nigeria on Truth Social, the genocide against Christians rages on. Well, Truth Nigeria's Mike O'Day James is here with new heartbreaking details. So, Mike, what's going on in Nigeria right now?
Well, like you said, Raj, first of all, thanks for having me. Like you said, the genocide is still raging on, this time with higher intensity. I just came from the northeastern state of Taraba, and it's also a middle belt state. It is called Taraba. I went to certain towns like Bukari, Takum, Bali, and what I saw was carnage. Villages being taken over, people being killed. And who are those people doing the killing? They are Fulani terrorists who are encamped around the Danjuma farm.
Okay, so if you haven't been following what's going on in Nigeria, and this is your first time of hearing me cover the story, bear with me. I need to just give you some background. President Trump is talking about Boko Haram terrorists, but it goes beyond Boko Haram terrorists. Boko Haram operates like a military group. They attack as a single force, and usually they engage military personnel. The Fulani attackers are Fulani herdsmen who lead their cattle through the country, mostly in the northern parts, and they usually graze on savannas, and recently they began to encroach on people's farmland. And whenever the farmers would engage them to say, look, you're destroying my crops, these herdsmen began to slaughter the farmers whenever they would encounter them. And then at night, they would equally attack the villages that own these farms, eradicating the population or driving them out and then taking over their villages. So that's the background to what he just said. So whenever you hear President Trump talking about it, and I say I am conflicted, I don't know if his action against the Boko Haram, the known Boko Haram camps, will actually change anything, because there are roving bands of cattle rearers who are armed with semi-automatic to automatic weaponry. What are cattle rearers doing with semi-automatics? The average Nigerian citizen isn't allowed to keep and bear arms. And so they eradicate whole villages and towns, take over their property and their farmlands. And, so there's a mix-up in this entire situation where people say, this isn't a religious thing. However, most of the people who carry out these atrocities are Fulani, and Fulani are Islamists. They are. And when you read up the story of Usman Danfodio and his vision for the conquest of Nigeria, his vision for the conquest of Nigeria was ended by the British. The British stopped him from invading the rest of the country because of their superior weaponry. That is what ended it. And so the people who are doing this are simply picking up from where he stopped.
Who are encamped around the Kashimbila dams, and they are kidnapping, they are killing people, Christians. And I spoke to the Catholic Bishop of Wukari Diocese, that is Reverend Mark Megida Nzukwen, and he gave me this horrific figure. He said between 2019 to 2025, more than 230 Catholic churches have been completely erased.
So if this was only a conflict, if this was only a conflict over land or grazing rights, why would they destroy churches? Between 2019 and 2020, over 2,000, I think. Did he say 20,000 or 2,000? I have to rewind that. I'm sorry. I was busy giving my narrative. So let me get the number so I don't misinform you.
Churches have been...
Let me rewind that.
Have been completely...
Okay, I have to pause. Sorry.
25, more than 230 Catholic churches.
Okay, over 230 Catholic churches, and we're not counting other denominations. Why do they burn down churches if it doesn't have a religious connotation to it? Is a question.
Have been completely erased. And he also gave me a figure that about 100,000 Catholics and 200,000 other church denominations have been rendered internally displaced. That means they are now refugees in their homes. Imagine, Raj, 300,000 Christians in Taraba rendered refugees, internally displaced, over 230 churches erased, and the violence is still going on.
You just posted an article on Truth Nigeria about something that's happened in the past couple days.
Yeah, that's what
about
when I went to Bukhari, I went to places called Chachangi and Amadu. Imagine, immediately after Trump's threat or ultimatum to Nigeria, the Fulani militants have executed or have killed more than 20 persons. Reverend Father George Bako of the Holy Family Church, Takum, told me this. Reverend Titus Shimanian of another Catholic church in Ayetua in Benue, he had been rendered, his church has been taken over completely, so he has been rendered at IDP and is living in Taraba State now. He told me that also, he just confirmed to me this morning that somebody else from his own parish has been killed. So if we are talking about 20 being killed, just this morning, one has been added. It's everyday bloodletting. The Fulanis are not letting up. They are not resting. They are just slashing. They are shooting. They are killing. And I have pictures, gory pictures, to back up these claims.
So, like I said, I did watch a video. You know, the very first live stream we had where we talked about this right after President Trump released his ultimatum to the Nigerian government. We saw mass graves. We saw a mass burial. We saw mass graves. It hasn't ended. It hasn't stopped, according to this report. And the Nigerian government is still pretending like everything is okay. There are people who are still insinuating that President Trump's focus on Nigeria is a resource grab. The United States is attempting to take over our resources. And I'm like, okay, fine. So while you guys are busy accusing the president, the US president, of a resource grab, why haven't you taken care of the fact that over 200,000 Christian Nigerians have been displaced? You essentially have a refugee crisis within your borders, and you guys think that there's nothing wrong. All right, so the update essentially is President Trump has given an ultimatum to the Nigerian government to fix things, but things are getting worse. There's a video. If you would like the links to these videos, you can message me on crossroadsirl@gmail.com, and I'll send you the entire link, that all the videos that I just reacted to. I can send that to you, and then you can watch the full videos for yourself. I wish I felt comfortable going long on these live streams, okay, because the problem with YouTube and even mainstream media is there's so much to talk about and there's so much nuance to the news, but it's only the videos that are short and summarized that tend to get a lot of views on YouTube. Same goes for mainstream media. So you don't get a lot of long form conversations on these matters. Well, I will do my best to kind of give you the best of both worlds. So that's why I do these live streams. Sometimes I try to keep the live streams to an hour. Recently, I haven't been very successful at doing that because there's just so much to talk about. And secondly, there's the engagement with the chat. I'm going to be reading from the comments section very soon, shortly. But I want to go through this story. Now, let me know your thoughts on this situation in the chat. And if there's something that's related to an earlier conversation, an earlier news story, feel free to include that in the chat. I feel like this story shouldn't be reduced to now I'm not saying that it is small when I say reduced. It shouldn't be reduced to President Trump simply attacking Boko Haram, which is an Islamic military movement trying to create an insurgency into Nigeria. But there's also another side of the story, which is very disturbing. Here's the other side of the story. The other side of the story is that this Islamist group, now this is a video that I found, and this is the people on the motorcycles. I'm going to hide the chat just briefly so you can see the video clearly. The people on the motorcycles are these Islamic or Islamist militants. They are paying a visit to a government official. They are out there in the open. They're out there in the open. You have little boys. Look, these are not soldiers. These are regular citizens who have become militants. They carry weapons. They attack people in the dead of night, and they drive them out of their towns. These are criminals. These are terrorists. But they are being. This is a reception at a local government building. This is the other side of the story. The government of the country appears to be complicit. Why is it that now, I was a bit, let me use the term surprised that people who heard this story or heard President Trump's threat to the Nigerian government didn't say, well, this has been going on for a long time. We'll figure out how to deal with it. Please give us more time. They didn't say, we know that the Nigerian government is working hard to eradicate terrorism from the northern part of the country. They didn't say any of those things. What did they say? They said, you're trying to attack us to take over our resources, or you're trying to carry out a regime change, and warned that it doesn't happen because they tried it in Iraq and in Afghanistan and elsewhere. That is not a good thing for Nigeria. Why did they go from getting rid of these criminals to regime change? I didn't think much of it when that was going on at the time. I was like, well, whatever. I lived in Nigeria for over 45 years. And I know the kind of politicians we have. We don't have statesmen. We've been overrun by hoodlums who run for office. They are essentially hoodlums. Are there good people among them? I doubt it. I doubt it. And I'll tell you why I doubt it. Every time you attempt to enter into politics, there's a test. There's a purity test that happens. And that purity test involves witchcraft. If you're a person who has a conscience and you attempt to go into government, the mob of criminals who are in there wants you to be like them. And so if you go in with a pure heart and want to transform things, here's what's going to happen. They're going to tell you that there's a meeting that's happening at an ungodly hour. It might be during the day, but it's going to be a secret meeting. You're not allowed to bring your phone. You're not allowed to bring in anything that can show evidence of what is going on. And when you go to that meeting, they will coerce you to swear allegiance to a devilish spirit. In some cases, they ask you to swear over a coffin. These are symbolic rituals where essentially you're saying if you betray the group, you are essentially going to die. So you're essentially placing a curse on yourself. So you're bound by these demonic ties to play ball with the people in power. So that's why I said I doubt that there are any good people in there. I doubt it. Nigeria is the poster child for any form of governance that keeps out good people. It is designed to keep out anyone who wants to truly serve the Nigerian people. Someone said, why don't you talk about, I had a chat one time in the comment section, why don't you talk about your own country? You're from Africa, talk about Africa. I'm like, well, it's one thing to talk about things that can change. I'm going to be honest, I'm black-pilled. I'm black-pilled about my country. I'm so not certain that the country has any chance of becoming a properly governed country. I told my cousin years ago, I said to him, there are only two things that I can see that will change the country. One is an act of God. Those are very rare. You see them once in a while in the Old Testament of the Bible. And then the second is an act of war. I don't want the second one, but I told him it's very likely that that is what it would take. And even at that, very few countries survive revolutions that are carried out through violence. And so I am not for that, because it is the most violent person who wins. And whenever you have a country like Nigeria, where Nigeria is not a Christian country, it's not. The chances that the person who comes out on top is a Christian, followed by people with Christian values like you had with the American Revolution, is negligible. It might be less than 10%. It might be less than 5%. Who knows? 1%. And in the end, you wind up with a situation like you have in war-torn countries, where the country is essentially run by warlords. So I said, no, it's not going to work. The Nigerian government is complicit. And according to this report, they have intensified their attacks on Christians or Christian villages. This is the pastor who conducted one of the mass funerals, and he's giving a report here. I'm just going to play this very quickly. He's basically saying the same thing. I'm just going to play a snippet, and then you let me know what you think in the chat.
It is God at work. They were one in dealing with the Christians. After the Christians were not there, division came in. God said, I come down. You have touched my people. You have killed my people. You end up killing one another.
All right, so I think this has to do with an incident where a group of these terrorists essentially turned on each other. So he's saying, look, it looks like it was an act of God. Okay. And in the end, they ended up attacking each other, talking about the terrorists.
Now, election is coming. That's why they are afraid. So the only thing, the Fulani are tools to destroy us, to kill us. There is genocide. It's in my car. It's in my car. Do you want me to show you evidence? It's in my car. It's right there. Come and see pictures of genocides, including small children. Very soon I will make a press release. I will present how small children are among those that I kill. I will present the recent killings that Nigerian government don't want the world to know.
Yeah, so essentially the Nigerian government is running cover for what's going on. And so let me know your thoughts. I think the news is very clear. Okay, guys, there's so much to say. There's so much to say. This is a lawyer, a Nigerian lawyer, who has been talking about this for over a decade. Maybe I'll play this during a different live stream. Okay, I would like us to have a conversation. Let's talk. So what do you think about this entire situation with the United States? I've given you the inside scoop on what's going on behind the scenes. Okay, sitting down in North America like I am doing. Okay, I don't live in Nigeria anymore, but I lived there up until 3 years ago. We've seen how things work. And to be honest, the Nigerian government enjoyed a lot of they enjoyed a lot of freedom to do as they pleased, because in the first Trump administration, President Trump said Nigerians or people from other countries should stay in their countries and clean up their countries. That was his statement, and that's where the statement where he called certain countries shithole countries came from. He was like, look, you guys, we're going to restrict visas from these locations. We need to take care of our immigration systems, and so on. And I was fine with that. So he didn't really meddle. Were Christians being attacked even then? They were. They were being attacked. So it's not a new situation. President Trump isn't just waking up to something new. It's always been happening. So I would like to jump into the comments section, all right? And while I'm reading the comment section, let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be skipping some of these comments, but I'm going to start with the very first one. I guess you can read this comment that I'm going over. I'm going to zoom into it so it's clear on the screen. All right. This is a comment responding to one of my older videos, my most popular video, in essence. Donald Trump's shocking 1980 interview reveals his plan for America. And this viewer says the cognitive decline is evident. When I read comments like this coming from people who would have said that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack, he was the best president America has ever seen, the economy under Joe Biden was thriving. It's people like this who say those kinds of things. I'm reading this out because there are two things. One, it's either this is a bot, or this is a brainwashed person, or this is someone who knows he's lying, but he just has to put his thoughts out there to kind of, pollute or to poison the well, if you will. He had an articulated speech, could develop a line of thinking without getting lost. Now he starts talking about generals and goes on about paper and finishes saying how his signature is beautiful. He always was a narcissistic maniac and now with dementia. These are people who don't know what they're talking about. Okay, they were very fine with Joe Biden, so no need for that. I promise to always read the comments. Sometimes the comments read like this. This comment is from someone who may not have a great grasp of the English language, or maybe he's not great with technology. He was responding to the live stream we made where President Trump was giving a speech at Arlington, and he says, this commenter says, This is for veterans, not people who have died in service. So why was the speech being held at Arlington? If it was just for veterans, they could have gone to Veterans Affairs or to a special auditorium and filled the auditorium with veterans. There's a reason why Veterans Day holds for the president at Arlington. It is to also remember soldiers who died in the line of duty. There's a reason why the ceremony includes laying a wreath at the grave of the unknown soldier. So people like this are so obsessed. They're so blinded by Trump derangement syndrome that they just go ahead and tell the world that they don't know what they're talking about. Because if it was only about the living veterans, then there would have been no need to have gone through the ceremony of laying a wreath at the grave of the unknown soldier. Let's see. All right, I don't understand this comment. It's a bit rambly. So, did you hear about the edited Trump video? BBC's, yeah, we covered this story yesterday. BBC's Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turnes have resigned. We covered that news yesterday. Okay, Hocus Focus. Responding to this news story, it's a clip, it's not a live stream. Stunning discovery, USDA finds widespread SNAP fraud under Biden. This viewer says, thank you, Democrats, for helping us find these corruption by shutting down the shutdown. I don't know what he means by that. So essentially, the same sentiment that I had, the unintended result of the shutdown was some of these things came to light. Let's see. Same video, a comment comes in that says prosecute the fraudsters. Because I was asking, shouldn't these people who have essentially defrauded the government? Now, the video covered recipients of the SNAP benefits who were essentially defrauding the system. They would receive benefits from multiple states, and some of them were reselling these benefits to people. We had people showing up on CNN saying that there were people who couldn't go to the hairdresser because of SNAP benefits ending. I thought SNAP benefits was all about food. How come it's connected to going to the hairdresser? It means that there were people who were essentially running a business or a racket of selling these SNAP benefits and using the cash to go do their hair and nails. Right? So, yeah, so I've responded to most of these other messages. So I think I'll skip down. Those are the newest messages. Let me see. I think I responded to this one. I think. Okay, so I haven't responded to this. So concerning the last live stream after Zoran Mamdani won his election, we have this live stream if you want to go watch it. Mamdani era begins, how New York City reacted and what's in store. This viewer says capitalism is designed to serve the rich and the rest of us just get crumbs off the table. That's not true. People who feel like they aren't called to start a business work for people who do own businesses or who start businesses, and those who own businesses or start businesses have a greater chance of becoming rich. The rich for the most part, are people who have taken the risk to start a business. They put up their own money, their own time. They put themselves at risk. And eventually, they get rewarded when their investment of time and money pays off. They become rich. Then you have people like Albert who begin to bellyache and complain about them being rich. They paid the price. Now, when Marxists and communists talk about the rich, usually it's relegated to this vague group of people who are out there and all they do is stand in the dark corners, of the marketplace, and they take away from people, they steal their money, and that's how they became rich. That boogeyman does not exist. The only place it exists is in politics. That's what they won't tell you. It's in politics because you in the marketplace, the only way you succeed in the marketplace is by solving problems. And if you don't solve problems, people won't trust you and they won't patronize you. Yesterday, I had a snafu with my live stream tool. The only reason why I still stay with Restream, because as you can see, I'm restreaming with the same company, but I'm using a different method to live stream. Yesterday, I had to make 3 attempts because the browser tool that would have allowed me put up the individual chats of each person on the screen only exists on the browser tool. And it failed. The live stream failed 2 times. The third time I had to go onto the external software OBS, connected to Restream, and stream to different platforms. The reason why I still use Restream is because it allows me to stream on 2 YouTube channels simultaneously and manage the details on those 2 live streams. Else, if it was based on yesterday's experience, I would have walked away from Restream. Businesses that serve their clients with excellence keep their clients. They keep getting paid. That's how people get rich. Albert Karanante has swallowed the lies of Marxists, claiming that capitalism only serves the rich. If Albert will get off his ass and go start a business and devote the next 15 years of his life building his business, he will be rich. Then his view will change, because what he's asking for is for socialism. Socialism will tell him, after he spent 15 years to build a business, how much he deserves to make off that business he sacrificed his life to build. Then he'll become a capitalist. That's how this works. So he goes on to talk about high rents and homelessness happening under capitalism. No, it is not. It did not happen under capitalism. Let me explain. Which cities, which states around the United States has the highest homelessness rate? I'll put it forward to you that it is blue cities and blue states. These are cities and states that have fully embraced socialistic policies, where people who are homeless and don't work get propped up with taxpayer money. They want to appear compassionate and helpful, but what they are doing is they are enabling these people to continue with their lazy lives, because they are now being fed with the money taken from productive citizens. That's what socialism or communism creates. Now, because you're living in a capitalist economy a capitalist economy, you can't do what socialists or communists will do to the homeless. You don't see homeless people in communist countries. Why? Because they are all scraped off the streets and sent off to labor camps. That's why you don't see any homelessness. Anyone who is useless in the communist utopia is sent to the labor camps or is removed from the general population permanently. Emphasis on permanently. That's the way it works. So Albert Carante, if you're so in love with communism, go live in a communist country. Mike just asks Albert Carante one question. Okay, he says people of New York have had enough of the BS. And then Mike responds to Albert Carante. Compared to what? Okay, I just want to read his response. That is because the people stopped voting and allowed corruption. Communism is forced corruption. One is a nice farm that became dilapidated, okay, and the other is a factory farm that strings people up on hooks and forced to live in cages. They are treated like a resource for the state to be processed and used. We are not the same. Every communist state on earth is worse than even America. Is worse. Even America at its lowest point is better than any communist state on earth for the regular people. Like I said, of course, he's pivoting. Okay, Orange Man bad. They say Mamdani is the end of the world. Didn't Donald Trump go through something like this? Something like what? Like people lying and saying that he was going to be the end of the world. People are saying that Mamdani is going to create problems for New York because his policies are destructive, because they have destroyed other countries. President Trump is only calling back policies that built the country in the first place. He's going back to tariffs. He's going back to things that made America wealthy in the past. And he's saying, why didn't we keep doing these things? He's returning to the policies that helped America grow and become strong. I feel like I'm talking to myself because the chat has been silent. It's like, is it that everything that I've been saying simply makes sense? You guys can't add or take away from anything that I've said. These are the things that we see. Like whenever I go into the comment section, yes, I ask people to kind of share their ideas, and there are people who are there not to share their ideas, but they are there to kind of mock and berate us for our support of policies that are simply common sense policies. So it's difficult to sit and read these sorts of messages, but it has to be done. It has to be done. Buddy Jenkins says 5,000 people receiving SNAP benefits. If the Republicans don't give in to the Democrat demands, these people will X again. Well, this was 5 days ago, so of course the Democrats capitulated and the government has been reopened. All right. Now, this video, stunning rant, touch it, why New Yorkers must learn the hard way about, I think that it talks about socialism. This viewer says they can blame Trump all they want, because I said in the video that even if you encourage these blue cities to go ahead and carry out their socialist experiment and it fails, they will find a way to blame the Republicans or the Trump administration. A lot of people blame the United States for the failure of Venezuela's communist experiment. They say America didn't let Venezuela's experiment run properly. And everything bad in the world, as far as these Marxists are concerned, stems from the United States of America. Why? Because a strong country that is not authoritarian or communist or socialist is a threat to every other country that is communist or socialist. It is a threat to the professors and college students who believe in communism and socialism. So they have to create yet again, another boogeyman whose existence is a threat to a proper communist experiment across the world. That's the way they think. Now I'm going to say something. That's why people who are sold out to Marxist and communist ideology can't stand the fact that you exist. They can't stand the fact that you exist. As long as you exist, you are a threat to their way of life. You are a threat to anyone believing that what they teach is valid. Your very existence repudiates their philosophy. So when they say that the state should run everything, and there's a country out there where the state doesn't run everything and the country is thriving, they will blame that entity for their failure. It is just victimhood. And we're seeing an epidemic of victimhood all over the United States today. All right, guys, I'm going to have to stop here. As much as I would love to hang out with you, okay, I need to end the live stream here. I was hoping for more conversation, but we haven't had as much conversation as we should, so I will be ending here. Once again, I would say, I'm going to stop. Once again, I would say that I am still considering doing a live stream in the evenings for several reasons. One, the early live streams tend to intersect with people's workday. So doing it during the early hours is a bit of a challenge. Second reason is, okay, I think it's just one reason, because the idea behind the live stream has always been engagement. Us having a conversation, an exchange. And if we can't have an exchange during the day, would an exchange later in the day work? You know, I've said this before, and I'm going to just keep throwing it out there. This is the best time for me to have the live streams because kids aren't home. It's more like YouTube is now my 9 to 5, you know, until further notice. And unless YouTube is paying the bills 100%, a time will come and I will have to return to a 9 to 5. So maybe eventually I'm going to be going back to live streaming in the evenings. For now, I'm live streaming every day during the day. If I start a 9 to 5, I may have to reschedule the entire live stream. I may have to either stream once a week, or twice a week, because I wouldn't be able to sustain a rigorous work schedule with a daily live stream routine and run a family. So as much as I love doing what I do, there are changes that need to be made to justify all of the efforts. So I'm just throwing it out there so that you kind of know what's going on internally. I tell you how I feel about things. I don't try to make it look like I've got it all figured out. So for some people, that's like a weakness. That's like, don't say anything about that. You're being too transparent. But for me, it's about building trust with you. I need you to know what's going on in my head. I need you to understand that I don't have everything figured out. I don't. I'm just a guy like you doing YouTube in my spare bedroom, trying to figure things out. I'll tell you how I feel about things. I'll tell you how what I think about things. And then you can decide whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me. It's really as simple as that. And the fact is that you may not agree 100% with everything that I say, but at least you know that I'm honest about it. I'm not going to wake up in 20 years to pretend that I don't have these thoughts. I'm not going to wake up in 2 weeks to pretend like I didn't say the things that I said in an earlier live stream. I wouldn't do that to you. So I'm just being as honest as I can be. And I want you to join me on this journey. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching this, please consider subscribing to the channel. Like and share the video. And if you happen to listen to this segment of the live stream, let me know what your thoughts about me switching up the timing of the live streams. Should I live stream at night when most of us who are parents and spouses can spend time actually engaging in the conversation? Or should I stick with the current timing? Do you have suggestions of what we could be discussing, the stories that we could be discussing? Let me know or by email or in the comment section. I prefer email, so you can send an email to crossroadsirl@gmail.com. And then I would love to see how we can figure out the timing of the live stream, the topics that need to be covered. I have a feed. I'm very transparent about how I get my stories. It's mostly stories from my feed. There are stories that interest me. And if these stories interest me, they tend to interest other people. But I don't want to be arrogant enough to say, well, it works for me. It's very likely it works for other people. I don't want to be that guy. So let me know if you have other ideas or other stories that you may want to cover. What format do you prefer? Do you prefer the reaction format where we go through stories, or do you prefer the times when I simply go through articles? I forgot to go through this article. I'm so sorry. I forgot to go through this article because, when you're in the middle of the live stream, sometimes it's hard to kind of keep track of everything because you're the only one doing everything. Right now, I'm the only one doing everything. So I'm thinking, like, while I'm talking to you, I'm thinking what comes next. What story comes next? Do I still do this story and so on? Okay, so the report on the Epstein files, which I forgot to read on Ground News, says White House accuses Democrats of selectively leaking Epstein emails to smear Trump. Now, it's statements like this that makes you think. Because I did say at the beginning of the live stream, President Trump could have been outed all this time before he, got back into office the second time. The Democrats had the House and Senate. They could have exposed him if there was any evidence that he was on the Epstein list. Podcasters like Dan Bongino had been screaming from the rooftops about the Epstein files. It wasn't a new conversation. How come all of a sudden they are zealots for the Epstein files? How come all of a sudden it's a huge issue? How come all of a sudden Trump is on the Epstein list? It's like for almost 2 years, the Epstein list was being talked about in the conservative space. People who are left-leaning and who only listen to TDSBC didn't see it. I followed it for about 2 years. The Epstein list was most of what people in conservative circles could talk about. How come the Democrats suddenly snapped out of it and decided that this was the most important thing ever? They just concluded a catastrophic government shutdown. And what is the next thing they go to? Epstein. I would say that the Epstein files is possibly the Trump administrator's biggest black eye. I think so. Because President Trump didn't run on releasing the Epstein files. It was a totally unforced error. They ran into that situation eyes wide open, saying they had the files, they had the names. Pam Bondi said it's on her desk. And then she shows up to say there's nothing there. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, who were on it for years talking about the Epstein files, came out to say there's nothing there. It's the biggest black eye so far. And the Democrats are capitalizing on it. They didn't have to. They didn't have to make it a thing. They just gave the Democrats the ammunition that they continue to use. It's like there are so many files that if they were to release one file or an email or a photo every quarter, they would have the entire Trump administration covered. So every time they mess up, every time the Democrats mess up, all they have to say is Epstein files. And everybody wakes up like a zombie. Oh, and they're going after Trump. Epstein files, Epstein files. That's what it looks like. They are playing the game just right. They are. Look, guys, what if there's anything that I can do for you? If there's anything that I can do for you, and I'm trying to do it for myself because it is one of the driving forces that keeps me doing what I'm doing. Because at the very beginning, let me tell you my origin story with this channel. My channel wasn't always about news and politics. It was mostly about everything I like. I would talk about culture, I'll talk about relationships, I'll talk about myself, I'll talk about my beliefs. It was an everything channel. I'm drinking water, by the way. It was an everything channel. I'm drinking water, so I need to drink more water because my lips have been feeling dry. Like it's been persistently dry. And whenever your lips get dry, it means you're dehydrated. So for days now, I've been, feeling like there's a dry layer on my lips. It's not dry and cracked. It's just that thing that says, okay, it's feeling dry. So it's a signal to me to take in more water. All right, just want to share that with you. So if you feel that, just take in more water. So I should have been drinking more water, but I'm very self-conscious whenever I'm live streaming. I'm self-conscious. So when I'm live streaming, I tend to forget about food. I just forget about stuff. I'm trying to be in the zone. I'm very self-conscious because I'm an introvert. So this is very, it's foreign to me. Live streaming and putting myself out there is foreign to me. And so for me to focus in and live stream and do what I need to do, it requires a lot of focus on my part. So, right, so back to this article before I forget. The House Democrats on the House Oversight Committee released Epstein communications. So the government just opens up. Now, this is a recap. And honestly, if you want me to continue talking about it or to stop talking about it, you can just say so in the chat. The House Democrats resume from their government shutdown. And the most important thing to them, okay, well, that's their job, House Oversight Committee. There's nothing else to do but to release Epstein communications that mention Trump. I've said before that this is juvenile. It's juvenile. The only way the Democrats will get a majority in government, two ways. One, they either cheat during their next elections. Already, some of the elections that held, last week are being contested. The other way that they could win, especially win back the White House, is if Republicans or MAGA blow it monumentally. Because these guys are just acting like teenagers. They're acting like children. Their focus should be on governing their states well. Let everything that is run by Democrats succeed so overwhelmingly that everyone all over the United States says, I want a piece of that. Take it national. All right, including a 2019 email suggesting, of course, he knew about the girls, and a 2011 message about someone who spent hours at Epstein's house with Trump. So, this is their play. Make Trump look bad so that everyone forgets that we shut down the government for 40 days over nothing. We put the American people through pain over nothing. That's their play. So if I can do anything for myself and for you, it is to learn how to look at politics. Don't take it too seriously. Don't take it too seriously. You need to look past all of the noise the dust. You need to waft through the dust to see what they're trying to hide. And 2, pay attention to policies. Policies that are common sense policies. 3, stop listening to the incendiary language. Once you feel your emotions are getting riled up, it's time to press pause on the news feed. Pick a YouTube channel that entertains you, or watch a TV show to decompress. Okay, binge on a TV show, decompress. Don't take it too seriously. I was going to tell you my origin story, and I got sidetracked by myself. During the 2024 election, so I started out the channel being a tutorial channel for web design to teach people technology. Then I pivoted into it being an everything channel, for me to kind of journal my journey. And then the presidential elections kicked off. Of course, before then, there was everything going on with Trump and politics and January 6th and people being censored and Elon buying Twitter, then renaming it X. All of that was going on, and I was watching. And the only thing that I felt was like, okay, I need to just stay in my lane and just focus on this, until things got so heated that I began to see myself react emotionally to everything that was going on in the news cycle. My heart would beat faster. I would get upset. I would feel frustrated by what I was reading in the news or watching in the news. Movies were getting worse because wokeness was being fed through every channel conceivable. In movies, in TV shows, in comics, everything was getting inundated by wokeness. The same, like it was insane. And it was more like, okay, let me figure out what to do. And so I did some videos where I reacted to news personalities and some reports. And after a few weeks, I had to decide, okay, my channel isn't growing. What should I do about taking the channel seriously? Because at the time, this was still a hobby. It was a wishful thinking to make it into a YouTube business, but I was like, it's still a hobby. My channel wasn't monetized. It was at 300 subscribers, and a huge part of the 300 subscribers was an ad campaign that I ran. It was paid subscribers. So I didn't take those 300 very seriously. And so I did a review of the channel and decided I wanted to know who's listening to my content and what should the channel be about. After doing the review on vidIQ, the results showed that my audience wanted more of news and politics. And so I leaned into news and politics, doing reaction videos to news and politics. And within a couple of months, the channel got monetized. And a couple of months after that, it grew from a little over 1,000 subscribers to over 10,000 subscribers. That's my origin story. Now, I've hovered around 10,000 subscribers because at the peak of that growth, my mom dies, and then I was in grief. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I was in grief. So I didn't create content for almost 2 months. That essentially stalled the channel. So right now the channel is like in limbo. And with the content I create now, I'm working on essentially deciding on what this channel is going to be for the rest of its existence. Because the videos that made the channel grow to that extent, I felt were videos that were not essentially sustainable. They were more of reacting to archived videos from 20, 30, 40 years ago. So I didn't see it as sustainable. And so I pivoted to just working with current affairs and news and politics. Just give me a second. Come in. Yeah. How was school? All right. It's gonna fall. It's gonna fall. All right, give me a hug. I'm wrapping up the live stream. So, is your mom still downstairs?
Yeah.
I thought she was gonna get James.
I'll tell her.
Tell her she promised to get James. James is expecting her. So, all right. Yeah. So, essentially, that's the cliff notes of my origin story. I do this because of these guys, because of my kids. Because I felt to myself, if I feel this way about politics, where my emotions and everything about me is getting so worked up over this, there's something very wrong with this picture. I have to learn how to manage it. I have to learn how to interpret what I see in the news and to treat it the way I should. And so it began my journey into learning how to be more balanced when I look at the news and not get emotional about things. Does it mean you don't get emotional about what you see in the news? No, it simply means you learn how to control it and how to manage it, and eventually how to see things clearly so that you don't feel upset, enraged, frustrated. You see it as a game. This is a game. To a lot of people, it's a game. But the decisions that the Democrat Party took over the last 40 days plus affected real people. I am not one of those real people. But it doesn't change the fact that seeing them do it to other people isn't frustrating. What do you care? You're not an American citizen and you don't even live in America. I do care. I care where things are done right. Why not go react to content from Russia? I don't speak Russian and I don't follow Russian politics. Why don't you talk about what's going on in your country? I already talked about that already. There's nothing I can do to change that. I will talk till the cows come home. The people in Nigeria don't care. They don't. Unless it's directly related to something that concerns them, they really don't care what someone like me has to say. I have to be an entertainer, I have to be popular before they pay attention. And even at that, most people in Nigeria who follow social media, most do it to be numbed. It's entertainment. They want to, it's an escape for them. It's escapism. What I provide is not escapism. It's not. It's not. And to be honest, it wouldn't be healthy for me to talk about Nigeria at all, because I would be a raging lunatic if I began to talk about Nigeria. I would be so enraged every single time I went live. I would. I would be enraged. I would be enraged. I gave Nigeria over 45 years of my life. I was told things would get better. I was told Nigeria was going to, do this great thing or that great thing. And after over 45 years, I felt lied to. I did. I stuck it out in Nigeria. I refused to leave the country, even for a vacation, because I love Nigeria so much. I said, look, I want to stay here and I want to help somehow. So when you do all of that and you feel like you're betrayed, it's like you're done. So if I were to begin to talk about Nigeria, I would be a raging, angry, red-faced. In fact, possibly if I carried on that way, I might not survive for very long. I wouldn't. It would be very hard for someone operating at that level of intensity to survive. Because, I mean, you can love something or someone so intensely that you essentially break your heart because you're so frustrated by what's going on with them. That's how I feel about Nigeria. I bring it up like this is the longest I've talked about Nigeria since I left. This is the longest. I've talked about the United States and only the United States as much as I can. A bit about the UK yesterday, but I avoid other countries, just the US, because I understand US politics more than I do anywhere else. But it's painful to do. Okay. All right, so that was a bit of me peeling back the curtain, but you need to understand, this is why I do what I do. I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to step into your world. Larry Glass, you're the MVP for today. Thank you for your chat and for your encouragement. Thank you. I don't know how to thank you for the encouragement, because recording a video is one thing. Doing a live stream is very different. It is very different because you need people to know that you're talking to them. And if you don't, and if people don't react or respond while you're speaking to them, you can feel very, very much alone. Like you're out of your mind. You're like talking to yourself. It can feel that way. So when I have people who talk back and who send the word of encouragement, it means a lot. It does. So that takes me back to my earlier request. If you feel that it might be better to move the live stream to a different time of day, I've told you everything that I can about what's going on in my head about the channel, the live streams, because I want to bring you into my world to let you know, hey, this is where I'm going with this. So you let me know your thoughts by sending an email to crossroadsirl@gmail.com. All right, I'll be doing a hard stop right now. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you very much. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time tomorrow. We'll be going live. And then I'm glad that today's live stream didn't crash like yesterday's. Yesterday was really frustrating, and I was able to live stream, but it was really frustrating. I was this close to saying bye-bye to Restream, but Restream is great when you use it a certain way. So what I've done, if you've noticed, I've blown up the chat messages. I've blown up the chat messages to say, okay, this is how I'm going to be revealing the messages from now on to further notice until I figure out how to select individual messages to be viewed. So we will do that for the meantime. All right. Thank you so much. And I will catch you on the next one. I want to do some housekeeping. If you noticed during the live stream, I had a bunch of bots pop up because I made a weird decision to allow viewers on Kick to send messages without being put on a waiting period. And once I took off that waiting period, the bots just began to swarm. So I decided that I would put that waiting period back on because I don't want the chat filled with nonsense. So apart from the message you see on the screen right now from Restream.io, I'm going to figure out how to just fix that issue. Anywho, that's all for today. All right, I'll be going off the air. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, bye-bye.